Okay, so here we are at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. There are always all kinds of exciting things to do in the garden. It's one of my favorite places to go. I don't know if you can see that, Brooklyn Botanic Garden. So my first novel, which you haven't read, I don't think, because it's for older teens, is called A Wish After Midnight, and it's set in the garden. The Ship of Souls is actually set on the other side of Flatbush Avenue in Prospect Park. And this is one of the entrances to Prospect Park. There are lots of entrances because the park is pretty big. It's in the middle of Brooklyn. And if you went through that entrance, you would see the carousel and Lefferts Historic House and eventually the boathouse. So I'm going to go back there, but now I'm going to walk up Flatbush Avenue because that is where it all began. Okay, so now we're at the Prospect Park Zoo. We're a little bit farther up Flatbush Avenue. That's the direction I came from. That's where I live. And we're going to walk farther along up Flatbush Avenue because I want to show you the place where I first heard Dee's voice. Okay, so here we are walking along Flatbush Avenue, and you'll see that there is a black cast iron fence that's spiked at the top, right? It's pretty sharp. But all along Flatbush Avenue, which is one of the oldest roads in Brooklyn, it's hundreds of years old, you can see that there are gaps. I don't know if there was like a car accident or what. And sometimes they try to patch it up, and sometimes they don't. But if you went past this, you would be inside Prospect Park, which kind of looks like a jungle. But this was where I was walking last spring when I first heard a rustling in the leaves on the ground. I'm going to walk a little bit farther and show you some of the tree trunks that have blown over, and that gave me the idea that there might be something or someone living underneath. Okay, I think I got cut off there. So we're walking along Flatbush Avenue, and you can see how I said there are breaks in the fence, and sometimes they try to fix it, and sometimes they don't. But farther inside, you can see Prospect Park. And this is a part of the park that people don't come to that often because it's on the edges. And in the center of the park is the meadow and the lake, and there are more things to do there. But you can see how all along the ground there are dead leaves. And it was spring. I think it may have been March or April. And I was walking along, and I kept hearing a rustling in the leaves, and I thought, oh, you know, it's just like a chipmunk or something that's rustling in the leaves. But every time I stopped, the rustling would stop, and every time I started walking again, the rustling would continue. And I started to feel like something must be following me. So I was walking along, and I could see all these gaps in the fence, and I could hear the rustling, and then it would stop, and then I would keep walking and it would start again. And I started to think, somebody's following me. And then, I don't know if you can see, there's a slight rise. And as I was walking, I imagined 3 kids in the park. And there was a boy and a girl. They were older, and they were kind of really into each other. And then there was a younger boy, and he was kind of feeling left out. And the rustling underneath the leaves that were on the ground turned out to be a trap. And I saw the trap grab hold of his leg, and it started to drag him along the ground, and he screamed out, and the 2 other teenagers stopped what they were doing and came to help him. And that's kind of how Ship of Souls was born. And there are lots of trees in the park that got blown down, I think in 2009 when there was a big windstorm. And I started thinking about how that might be a way, an uprooted tree might be a way to get underground. Okay, so here's a good example of a break in the fence and then a huge tree that got knocked over maybe during a windstorm, or maybe it just fell over because it's old. There are lots of really old trees in Brooklyn. And the Parks Department will cut it up into smaller bits, but they just leave it there. Okay, now we're at Grand Army Plaza. This is a bus stop, and the library is right across the street. And this, believe it or not, is a public toilet. You pay 25 cents and you can go to the bathroom here. There aren't a lot of public toilets in New York City. But when this first went up, I didn't know it was a toilet, and I thought, oh my goodness, it's an elevator. And that's going to be part of the next book, sequel. Kind of loud, because this is a roundabout. But this is also the entrance to Prospect Park. So we have Grand Army Plaza with the library. So that's where Nyla meets Dee and Keem, and then they cross the street and they come past the actual arch, because the Grand Army in Grand Army Plaza stands for the Union Army that fought and won the Civil War. So this is the arch. And I don't know if you can see, there's one black guy on the right hand side crouched down. You can see if I can zoom in a bit. I don't know if you can see him. So they walk past the arch and into the park, because this is another main entrance to the park. Okay, so now I'm going to go across the street into the library. Okay, now we're at the library. I managed to cross the street without getting run over. This library was one of the first buildings I ever saw when my dad brought me to Brooklyn in 1993. And I thought it was so beautiful because I'd never seen gold images on a building. And I'm going to get up close so you can see some of them yourself. Okay, so the library just opened and everybody's rushing to get in. But you can see some of the really beautiful gold images from different stories and historical figures. And of course the one that I really like is the Phoenix, which I'll get close to now. Hey Cody. We are back in Prospect Park, and I just did my little exercise walking around the park. The park is about 5 kilometers altogether, so sometimes I cut through the middle. Actually, I always cut through the middle because it's shorter, and that takes me through Nethermead Arch. And Nethermead Arch cuts the park in half, and it also leads to the boathouse and Lullwater Bridge, which is actually where Ship of Souls really ends. It doesn't end at the African burial ground. But I just wanted to show you this little pond area, which is very pretty. And behind me, there's a big open meadow, which actually isn't as big as the main meadow. But people come here to walk their dogs and to exercise, and then cars are allowed to drive through the outside. And people go for runs and stuff. So now I'm going to walk us over to the Lullwater, which is the tail end of the lake and the water system in the park, and that'll lead us to the boathouse. Okay, I'm back. I've never actually walked down this path before, but I figure we'll give it a shot, see where it leads. There are lots of paths in the park. Some of them are for horseback riders, and some of them are for hikers. Some of them are paved, like this one. A lot of them aren't. And I can kind of hear water, which makes me think we're coming up to the boathouse, and yes we are. Wow. That is the boathouse. And because it has been so hot this summer, the lake is covered in algae. I'm just going to come and stand over here in this little cupola type place. So normally, there's a water fountain, a waterfall rather, right there. And then you look over to the other side and there's the boathouse. And there is an Audubon Center in the boathouse where you can learn all about birds. And then there are often sometimes boats also that can take you on a cruise. And then I don't know if you can see over there, but that's Low Water Bridge. So I'm going to walk over there now. Now you can see the path has turned to dirt and wood chips. I'm going to try very hard not to fall into the slimy water while I'm talking. It'll be so great when you can come and see the park because it's very beautiful and it's well over 100 years old. And it was designed by Olmsted and Vaux, the same men who designed Central Park, which is also very beautiful and huge. Okay. So now we're coming up to Low Water Bridge, and if you remember, when Dee returns from the Ship of Souls, he finds himself standing on the bridge, and he's looking down into the water, and he can see the ship descending into the depths. And then he looks across, and he sees Nyla and Keem standing by the boathouse waiting for him. So this is basically what his view would have been, minus all the green slime. The boathouse is beautiful. It was designed to look like the boathouses in Venice, Italy. So, on the other side of the bridge, have some very cute birds here. On the other side, it looks like the algae is blossoming. 2 yellow flowers. Okay, so now I'm going to head to Historic Battle Pass, which is where the boulders are. Okay, now I'm up close to the boathouse, and that gives you another view of Low Water Bridge. There's a gardener using a shovel behind me, which is why that's so loud. As you can see, we have very beautiful swans. One time I came and sat here by the water after a run, and those 2 swans came and sat right next to me. It was amazing. So one day, another day, I came down to the boathouse, and I noticed that there was this weird fence. Actually, the fence wasn't there the first time I came, but inside the fence were all these paving stones. And I thought, that's weird. Now they're all covered in weeds and sticks and stuff. But when I first came here, I thought, why are there paving stones? And they're really heavy. And that actually led me to the idea of the stone beast. So that when Dee and Nuru are on Low Water Bridge, and Nuru says to him, I have to prepare to wake the dead, Dee comes around the lake to stand with Nyla and Keem. And then while they're standing here, they notice that a stone rolls past them into the water, and when they turn around, these stones have built themselves up into the stone beast because the nether beings are turning it into a monster. So then Keem leads them off one way, and Nyla and Dee head off that way into the woods. But eventually the stone beast does catch up with them. It hurts Nyla, Dee surrenders, and then the stone beast marches Dee to Historic Battle Pass, which is where we're going to go now. This lamppost always reminds me of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's an antique lamppost. You can hear the blue jays screeching overhead. And this is what some of the paths are like. So remember I said Nyla tries going up the stairs to see if that's going to shake the beast, but it doesn't. And then the more you walk through the park, you'll quite often come to an arch. So the cars and the bikers and the people running go overhead, and the people who are walking can go through the arch. This one's called Eastwood Arch, and it should come out right near, I think, the Carousel and Historic Lefferts house. I live on Lefferts Avenue, and I'm about 5 minutes away from the park. And Lefferts house was an original homestead, part of a farm, settled by a Dutch family, because New York was Dutch before it was taken over by the British. It was New Amsterdam, before it became New York. Amsterdam's a place in Holland, and York was a place in England, is a place in England. So I'm actually kind of lost, so I'm going to turn the camera off now. Okay, I'm not lost. This is the carousel. I don't know if you can see that, but beyond the carousel is historic Lefferts house. They actually put the house on a truck and moved it so it could be here in the park and be a historic site. Now we're going to walk along the path again, and we're going to pass the zoo, the Prospect Park Zoo, and then we're going to come to Battle Pass. Okay, so this is historic Battle Pass, and obviously today we have a stoplight and a lamppost. None of that would have been here in 1776 when the British came to invade New York and the Patriots tried to fight them off. This monument, which is surrounded by mud, so I'm going to stay here, marks the site of the Donegal Oak, which was a huge old oak tree that the Patriots cut down, and they made it fall across the road so that the Patriots wouldn't be able to get past it, which was a pretty good strategy for people who, don't have a whole lot of resources. So this is one path that leads up into the woods, and this would have been where Dee and Nyla and Keem were walking, but I'm going to take the road. So, I don't know if you can tell, but we're walking uphill, and then the road curves. And coming up here, on my left, is a boulder that I used to pass every time I came to the park for years. And I would always think, what if that plaque was a door, and it actually opened up and somebody was able to go down into the mountain, because this is a part of Mount Prospect. So you can see this is the historic marker of Battle Pass. You can always stop the tape and read all of that, so I won't have to read it to you. Recently somebody came and sprayed the boulder with purple spray paint, which sucks, but that kind of thing happens in New York, unfortunately. So we're on the left side of the street, and if we walk up a little bit farther, on the right side of the street, there's another boulder. So that's where we're heading next, and I'm going to turn the camera off so I don't get run over while I'm trying to cross the street. Okay, so I crossed the street. As you can see, this is a really wooded area, and it's kind of a steep slope. So Battle Pass was the road that led through these two kind of hills. So the Patriots blocked it with an oak tree, and then they did their best to hold off the British. But the British were sneaky, and they found another way to get through farther down, and they circled around and trapped the Patriots. So some of the Patriots were able to escape by running across the meadow, but a lot of them weren't able to escape, and they died here in these trees. They were killed by German soldiers who were called Hessians. And it seems like there may have been some confusion where the Patriots tried to surrender and the Germans, because of language differences, didn't understand. It's not clear, but a lot of the Patriots died here really brutally. They got a bayonet in the stomach, they were pinned to trees with bayonets. Really terrible way to die. So this boulder, I'm trying not to fall. This boulder is the one that Dee is taken into, and again the plaque opens and stairs lead down, and then the stone beast crumbles on top of the boulder, so Dee can't get out. And it's farther down there that we see the other boulder, and that's where Keem and Nyla go. But I'll get close enough so you can see this. It says Line of Defense, August 27th, 1776. We're coming up on that anniversary. Battle of Long Island, 175 feet south. So that's back towards the other boulder. Okay, so this is the Long Meadow. And I don't even know if I can make it clear to you why it's called the Long Meadow, but you can guess, it's really long. So the entrance to the park at Grand Army Plaza is down that way, and Grand Army Plaza is right across from the library. So they come in through there, they're walking through the long meadow, and Nyla says, "Where are all these birds?" And Dee says, "Well, we have to go where the trees are, because birds like to nest in the trees." So the long meadow keeps on going, and they cut across to the east side of the park, and that's the side of the park that has the fence that's broken. But when Dee's by himself, he goes straight down the long meadow towards Nethermead Arch, which is that road that cuts the park in half. And beyond that road is the Audubon House and Low-Water Bridge. And I guess I can walk a bit down there and see if I can show you the stairs, because when he's going down the stairs, that's where he finds the bird. Okay, here's an example of some of the stairs that you can find when you go into the park. You really have to watch your step, because they're not that even. But Dee would have been going down steps like these when he saw Nuru. Go that way. Here's another moment where I'm not exactly sure where I am. Okay, so there's a bridge that leads probably over to where I want to go, but I'm going to go this way instead because there are more stairs. These stairs are a bit easier to go down. I think these should bring us out to Nethermead Arch. To say, I just think the park is beautiful, and that's why I wanted to write my story here, because there's so many possibilities. Anything could happen in a place like this. Although, to be honest, magic could happen anywhere, even in Bowmanville. Okay, we have more stairs. Try not to trip and or drop the camera, which would not be good. I should probably be running up these stairs for exercise. This is where I imagine Dee and Nyla trying to get away from the stone beast by running up these stairs. Okay, now I'm not sure where I am again, except a very pretty waterfall. And all of this is in Prospect Park, which is smack dab in the center of bustling Brooklyn. And you've probably heard several planes fly overhead because we're in the flight path of two major airports, JFK and LaGuardia. But other than that, it's often really quiet here in the park, which is another reason why I like to come here. When I first moved to Brooklyn in 1994, I used to spend a lot of time here alone, which probably wasn't that smart because women have to be careful about where they go alone. And back then, the park wasn't as safe. You can see that there are fences along the side here. There didn't used to be fences, so people could really go anywhere they wanted. And some things happened in the park that weren't legal, with some drug dealing and things like that. You can see there's a stream down there. But nobody ever bothered me when I came to the park, and that was one of the things I loved about it. Everybody just kind of minds their own business. And you can do, oh, chipmunk. You see our friend Chippendale hanging out. And I'm walking through several cobwebs. Animals in the park aren't exactly tame, but they aren't as afraid of people because there's so many of us in the park all the time. I've seen a red-tailed hawk here in the park, which is absolutely beautiful. I even saw one up close because it landed on one of the cherry trees. Not that you should get too close to a red-tailed hawk because it is a raptor. And yes, I do mean raptor as in descendant of the dinosaur raptors, which means it's a professional hunter and killer. It didn't attack anyone, but usually hawks don't get too close to humans. Okay. Once again, I don't know where I am. You probably don't need to hear me continuously talk about the fact that I don't know where I am. But I'm just going to see if this comes out to Meadow Arch. Well, it's coming up to some arch. So when you come to Brooklyn to visit, you'll have to make a list of all the things you want to do. Probably some of the big New York City stuff like the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, and the Brooklyn Bridge. But even if we didn't leave Brooklyn, there would be all kinds of things to do because Brooklyn's got so much history, including Weeksville, which is in my other book, A Wish After Midnight. When you get a bit older, you can read that. Okay, so here we have some more stairs. No idea where they lead. And this is Meadow Arch. All right. So I believe we walked above there earlier, and now I think our tour must come to an end so that I can actually find my way home and make this into a little film for you. Bye.